Hey everyone, welcome back to Daily Devotions. Pastor Steve here, walking with you in God's Word. We're in Judges chapter 14, right in the middle of the narrative of just getting to know Samson and being able to know that God had him positioned in a certain place for a certain people to bring about the understanding of Israel, but also a little bit of the deliverance of Israel. He is, in many ways, going to be the characteristics, the typification, as we said last video, of Israel. And so we get to know a little bit more of Samson, but we also, not just Samson, that's not why this is positioned in this way within the Judges, within this narrative. It's positioned in this way to be able to, yes, get to know Samson, but also get to know God's plan. When I say that, it triggers in me, maybe in some of you, years and years and years ago, 15 years ago here at St. Paul, being able to know that there was just this saying over and over again, God had a plan, God has a plan, and he's working that plan in you. And he's doing that in Samson. Brought Samson to this place. God had a plan. We're going to see that in these verses coming here. But being able to know he had a plan for Israel. He had a plan for Samson. He had a plan for his parents. But he had a plan to be able to deliver Israel and actually walk forth against other nations in that way. However, everything doesn't go according to plan because of the evil of the Israelites in the eyes of the Lord. Awayness, distractions, and just not heeding the commands of God. And so according to God's plan doesn't change, but man makes a mess of it. And so we get to see that in the narrative of Samson. Judges chapter 14. He's grown up in these last verses of 13, right? The woman gave birth to a boy and named him Samson. He grew, and the Lord blessed him, and the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him. And as he began to stir him, he was growing up. And this is now a man, Samson. Judges 14, verse 1. Samson went down to Timnah and saw there a young Philistine woman. When he returned, he said to his father and mother, I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now get her for me as my wife. What was happening in that context, first and foremost, the people of Israel, if you remember God's commands and statutes, don't intermarry with the nations around you. So all of a sudden, you're going to see the reaction of Samson's parents real quickly. Well, we're not supposed to do that. How about you find somebody in our clan? But his eye was set on this Philistine, and it also was the plan of God. But as you saw, hey, get her for me as my wife, the parents would go forth and being able to connect with the other parents and being able to put together marriages of daughter and son. And then that would be the provisions that the bridegroom would bring for the bride. And so we get to see a little bit of that context come forth here in this way. So verse 3 said, his father and mother replied, isn't there an acceptable woman among your relatives or among all our people? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistines to get a wife? So you have to understand at this time as well, Philistines are ruling over Israel. And so why would we go to this authority when we're trying to actually go for deliverance? But Samson said to his father, get her for me. She's the right one for me. His parents did not know that this was from the Lord, who was seeking an occasion to confront the Philistines, for at that time they were ruling over Israel. Samson went down to Timnah together with his father and mother. As they approached the vineyards of Timnah, suddenly a young lion came roaring toward him. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him in power, so that he tore the lion apart with his bare hands, as he might have torn a young goat. I love this verse to be able to say a lion comes over, he tears apart with the bare hands. It's the power of the Spirit. It's like he would be tearing apart a young goat, but I think it would be hard to tear apart a young goat as well. I'm just not in the tearing apart goat business. I don't know, but being able to know that this was great power, and I love the likeness there with his bare hands. But he told neither his father nor his mother what he had done. Then he went down and talked with the woman, and he liked her. Well, that's good. If she's going to be his wife, it's good that he liked her. Sometime later, when he went back to marry her, he turned aside to look at the lion's carcass. In it was a swarm of bees and some honey, which he scooped out with his hands and ate as he went along. When he rejoined his parents, he gave them some, and they too ate it. But he did not tell them that he had taken the honey from the lion's carcass. Now his father went down to see the woman, and Samson made a feast there, as was customary for bridegrooms. When he appeared, he was given 30 companions. It's kind of a very big wedding party, but this is a great lavish festival, as you're going to see here. It was a week-long marriage ceremony festival, and being able to have this celebration. So you'd need many companions, big part of the party, to just make this go according to tradition. So verse 12, "Let me tell you a riddle," Samson said to them, his companions, his party. "If you can give me the answer within the 7 days of the feast, I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes. If you can't tell me the answer, you must give me 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes." "Well, tell us the riddle," they said. "Let's hear it." And Samson replied, "Out of the eater, something to eat. Out of the strong, something sweet." For 3 days they could not give the answer. On the 4th day they said to Samson's wife, "Coax your husband into explaining the riddle for us, or we will burn you and your father's household to death. Did you invite us here to rob us?" Then Samson's wife threw herself on him, sobbing, "You hate me. You don't really love me. You've given my people a riddle, but you haven't told me the answer." "And I haven't even explained it to my father or mother," he replied, "so why should I explain it to you?" She cried the whole 7 days of the feast. What a magnificent celebration of your wedding. She cried, the bride crying for the 7 days of the feast. So on the 7th day, he finally told her she wore him down because she continued to press him. She in turn explained the riddle to her people. Before sunset on the 7th day, the men of the town said to him, "What is sweeter than honey? And what is stronger than a lion?" Samson said to them, "If you had not plowed with my heifer," which is actually kind of a play on words because you don't plow with a heifer. So he said, you did things wrong here. You unfairly got this riddle. "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle." Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon him in power. He went down to Ashkelon, which is one of the cities of the Philistines, struck down 30 of their men, stripped them of their belongings, and gave their clothes to those who had explained the riddle. Burning with anger, he went up to his father's house, and Samson's wife was given to the friend who had attended him at his wedding. A chapter that puts Samson in place, but the plan of God is to draw Samson closer and closer to the Philistines. And so intermarrying with this woman and then giving her away, but being able to actually have these companions going to this city and being able to show the Spirit's power in Samson. It's ramping up the reality of how God is using Samson. It's quite unique, quite different, but he is inserting Samson into the place where he's going to showcase his power, his authority, and as we'll get to see in these next couple chapters, his deliverance of his people once again. Don't lose sight of Samson being or representing Israel. Israel has given themselves over to the nations, intermarrying, not in a literal way, but giving themselves over to the other nations, prostituting themselves, as it would say, and being able to have the understanding of what the ramifications of that can be. Yet, God does not forget his plan, his people, and the purpose for which he brought them into this land. He'll continue to provide, he'll continue to pursue them, and he does that for you and me. He knows. He actually knows intimately the purpose and the plan for which he has placed you where you are, so that his glory, so that his kingdom will shine in and through you. It could be in unique ways, it could be in different ways, or it could be in a simple way of your relationships, of your family, of the places that you'll be to be able to impart the incredible love of God in this world. Have a blessed day knowing that God had a plan. God has a plan, and God's working that plan in and through you. Take care.